Well, good evening, everyone, as we welcome you to Quad Radio on a Tuesday night this week as we get set to close out October, believe it or not, October 30th, 2012. I'm Rodney Tomlin, and we are brought to you tonight by your good friends at Impact Solutions, your factory-authorized service suspension center there at Elka Suspension, 985 Harris Highway, Parkersburg, West Virginia, 304-863-0025. I want to say thanks to those guys. You can find them on the World Wide Web at ImpactSolutionsATV.com and Impact Solutions there in Facebook as well. Don't forget our friends at Elka Suspension are taking sponsorships and resumes, I guess I should say, for the 2013 season. And, you know, that kind of makes a lot of sense and brings us kind of to what tonight's special programming is all about tonight as we say good evening. And welcome to one Seth Fargher. And some of you folks might remember Seth as a DWT representative. I know that he worked with DWT and Moto Works there for a while. And the ATV motocross national scene. And he's also an avid ATV motocross and freestyler and just an avid all-around ATVer, I guess we should say, as we say good evening and welcome to Seth Fargher. Welcome, Seth.
Thanks very much, Rodney. It's good talking to you, and thanks for the opportunity to be on the air.
Hey, man, not a problem. I'm just glad that you have the opportunity to be here with us tonight. And I know with silly season approaching us right now, I mean, the big question is right now resumes on a lot of people's mind. Who do I send them to? What do I do whenever I make these things up? And from what I understand, you actually started, I don't know, an article here a few weeks ago, and you got it finished up and you posted it, and this thing has taken off like wildfire. And I had the opportunity to read it, and I said, you know what? That's scratching the surface right there. We need to dig it a little bit deeper. So we got a hold of you, buddy, and looks like we got a lot of things to talk about as far as sponsorship is concerned in the upcoming 2013 season. First and foremost, I guess, Seth, let's go ahead and I kind of preluded a little bit there with a little bit of an explanation of who you are, but go ahead and explain to folks who you are, where you've been, and what you're doing now.
Well, I'm kind of in transition. I worked for I spent a couple of years in California working with the media, doing power sports related ATV media stuff. Got hired on with DWT to do their trackside support at the AMA Nationals for 2011. Unfortunately, was not present at all at 2012. Didn't get a chance to make it to any of those as I moved on from DWT. But I've continued to stay involved doing media-related stuff. I got an opportunity to work with Can-Am on some of their pre-production promotional stuff. I've been to some press intros for manufacturers like Kawasaki and Yamaha and even Kimco, which has been just a load of fun to get to go test new bikes and that kind of thing. And then write articles for various websites. From that, I'm limited on what I can say at this point, but I'm gearing up for a new venture, getting back into the tire market, and so I'll have more to share about that in the near future. But excited about that opportunity, getting together with some folks and getting back into the tire business. I'm looking for that. I ended up switching coasts. I'm now over on the East Coast, living in South Carolina, and enjoying some of that southern hospitality. And so for a West Coaster, it's been a smooth transition moving over here, and it's nice to enjoy some of the southern hospitality is alive and well.
Yeah, I was wondering, man, you didn't sound like you were from around there, that's for sure. So
yeah,
are you?
That is secure.
So you're originally from California, I guess?
I'm actually from Oregon. I've kind of hopped all over the place. I'm from Oregon, and then I went to college in Illinois, went back to Oregon, and then moved to California for a few years after college. So I've been around a little bit.
So, I mean, you've been around not only around the country, but you've also been around the industry. I guess we've gotten a pretty good idea of that so far by listening to your resume, I guess you could say, talking about this evening. But all right, man. I mean, I know that the nitty-gritty of it is, and why everybody's going to be tuning in here to listen to this particular broadcast is to find out exactly what are the do's and don'ts of sponsorship. And this is a thing that's probably going to be a multi-part segment that's going to take segments that are going to take place over the next couple of weeks. And I guess probably, Seth, the best way to get this underway and to figure this all out is to first and foremost find out, I think, answer the question, what exactly is sponsorship? Because honestly, I think people might misconstrue what sponsorship is all about, because whenever people hear the word sponsorship, they automatically think that they're going to be handed everything on a silver platter, and sometimes that's just not the case.
That's really true. I had my eyes open. I worked following my time with CWT being out on the road. I ended up moving into their role of sponsorship director and kind of started reviewing applications. So my eyes were opened just to kind of I guess, misconception of what sponsorship is. And I mean, your top guys understand it. Your top guys have been in the industry for a long time. They've worked their ways up. They understand the relationship between having sponsors, having people that support you in your racing program. But and I also attribute a lot of it to some of the success that the motocross crowd has had, the dirt bike crowd, and guys that are getting outrageous salaries and big-time bucks to race and so forth. It seems like the better you get on the machine, the more product or money you get, and so it becomes the better you do, the more you get. Well, that can be true, but in a challenging economic times, in the current climate of the ATV industry as it is, it's always about a relationship, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship, i.e., the company is getting exposure from the rider and marketing. Essentially, it's a marketing arrangement, just like a company would pay to put say, FMF, for example. They pay however many thousands of dollars to run a magazine advertisement in a top industry magazine. Instead, they're going to give, like Chad Weenan, who's running their product now, they're going to give Chad free product, and Chad, in turn, is trading them exposure. When he's on the podium, he's out there winning races, he's doing what Chad Weenan does, and he won a championship this year. He's pointing people back to FMF, giving them essentially the same exposure they got if they spent that money on a magazine. I don't know Chad's deal. I don't know if FMF pays him or not, but regardless, he's running their product. So, in turn, he's endorsing their product, and that is giving FMF the credibility of we win championships, which they have a history of that anyways, but that's the trade-off. The same goes for other sports. Nike paid LeBron James as an 18-year-old kid out of high school $90 million. That's the example I always use. That's value they see in him, and he's endorsing their product, and Nike is then able to sell a lot of material, a lot of product, because they endorse someone like that. So the biggest thing about sponsorship, and one of the misunderstandings, particularly by younger people sometimes, that I found in my role is it's not a reward system. It's a marketing relationship. The company is counting on you to help them sell product. And the thing I point people out to as well, the rider actually benefits before the company. Whether you're getting free product or just a discount, you're getting that before you help that company sell product. I don't know of any company that says, okay, well, you go sell us stuff, and then we'll get you a 50% discount on tires or an exhaust. No, they get the discount up front so that person can go out and win races and compete, and hopefully steer people back to that company. And it seems elementary almost. It seems like, yeah, well, that's the idea, but people tend to forget. By the time they get around to sending in their resume, the sponsor makes them an offer and says, well, we'll give you this product, we'll give you this discount. It can seem like some of that understanding gets lost in the wash, and it's like, well, I deserve more than that, or I won the C class of my local stuff, so I should get free stuff, and it just doesn't work that way. The sponsorship arrangement between a racer and their sponsor is that you're agreeing to help them sell product, and so that's the number one thing to keep in mind as you go about approaching sponsors is how am I going to help them sell product? Because that's what they want you to tell them, and they want to see results, and they want to see not just results on the track, but they want to see sales numbers. If you can specifically point to helping increase their sales there's nothing that a sponsor wants more, and there's nothing that they will probably keep them from increasing their support in years to follow. So that's kind of the misconception that a lot of people seem to have about sponsorship as the whole reward system versus a marketing arrangement. And it's the exact same thing as them shelling out money for a magazine advertisement. Instead, they're shelling out money by way of either free product or discounted product in hopes that the return on their investment is selling product through exposure.
Right. And, in a nutshell, one thing that we got to remind people whenever they get sponsorship, again, whenever they do get a prospective sponsor, remember, you're not always going to get a free product, and most likely you're not going to get free product right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, everybody wants free stuff. When I started my pursuits, I was a kid out of college, never really raced. I was trying to get into freestyle, and so I had kind of a unique niche with that, but I also had to prove that I could do something. And so I hit up, I had high hopes that I was going to get free gear and free parts and free suspension and everything else. And in reality, if most companies out there want to help riders, that's the way that they pull back into the sport and invest in the sport. So if you are showing that you're competent, you're professional, you want to succeed, you want to excel, most companies will try and do something for people just to support the sport and help beginning racers or beginning riders on their way. But providing free products right out of the get-go is almost never happens because unless you know somebody, and even then it's challenging because that company, they need to see a return on their investment. So until they know that they're going to get again, back to the FMF and Chad Weenan, FMF at the beginning of the season, know they can partner with Chad because there's a pretty good chance that he's going to win a national championship, and he delivered. And so that's a safe bet for them, whereas with the average person that's applying for sponsorship for the first time, there's no relationship, there's no history there for them to know how that person is going to perform.
Exactly. And if you're just joining us here on Quad Radio, we are speaking with Seth Fargher, the do's and don'ts of sponsorship, I guess you could say, is probably the best way to put that here on Quad Radio. And Seth is explaining to us what exactly sponsorship is. And Seth, I know in understanding what sponsorship is, that is our first step. What's the next step in this whole I guess process would be the best way to put it?
The next step is you have a plan. People put together a plan as far as how they're going to tackle racing, and there are good ways to approach potential sponsors, and there are bad ways to approach potential sponsors. And you want to look at how you approach sponsors. And it may seem like, oh, well, what are you talking about? I just send my resume to sponsors. Well, you can do that, and a lot of people do, but I can guarantee you some of those that just send in blind resumes, a very good portion of them end up in the garbage or get deleted because a lot of companies have certain criteria they want you to follow. They want people to apply for sponsorship certain ways, and some of them only accept applications a certain way. So I look at that that's a broad subject as a whole because you want to partner with companies that are some people just send out to anyone, and whoever they hear back from, that's the product they use. But I recommend partnering with companies that are reputable, that you know are going to be around, that want to invest in the sport and have good products. If surprisingly, there's a high number of people out there that just want to collect sponsors for the sake of collecting sponsors, whether they use their product or not. But it's like a contest to say I have 17 sponsors and you only have 15, and it's really funny when you see somebody on like Hook It or Sponsor House that has like 30 sponsors and they've only raced once in their life, and all their sponsors are like 10% off slick off-road wash and T-shirts from this guy and T-shirts from that guy. And so there's that kind of comparison game. But when you're approaching sponsors for sponsorship, the place I encourage people to start, and I myself, when I've looked at sponsors, is look at their website or call them and see if they're accepting sponsorship, applications, how they prefer to receive them. Some companies use outside sources like Hookit or SponsorHouse.com, MXSponsor.com, which is kind of like a social media where you build a profile. Most people are probably familiar with that, but you build a profile, you can market yourself to companies and connect with other writers and that kind of thing. Some companies only use those avenues. Some companies don't use them at all. Other companies will only accept emailed applications. I know in my role at DWT, I responded to over 400 sponsorship applications. And email is the quickest way to go through those. Push a button, read a resume, make them an offer if we are, or if we're not, just send a quick thanks for applying, but maybe next year. This year we're not going to be able to help you. So it's a lot quicker to do that via email. A lot of companies accept hard copies. My experience is those ones that, at least at DWT, got the last attention because they came in all sorts of shapes, sizes, envelopes, and I put them off to the side. It was a lot easier and faster to just reply to email ones and reply electronically than it was to scan a document, scour it for an email address, and send an email back with their offer. And so, number one, find out if they're accepting applications. Number two, how they prefer. Even a company like we accepted them with 3 different ways with DWT: Hookit, hard copies, as well as emails. You do the person on the receiving end a favor if you send them a resume how they want it. If it's electronically, like for me, that was the quickest, best way for me to respond. You score points right there, and you're going to have the best chance of getting a quicker response if you send one electronically. So that's where I'd start. The next thing also that answers, if they tell you how they prefer it to be received, that gives you the that keys you in on how to format your resume. If they only want a hard copy, you can put together a nice Microsoft Word document or like a PDF. It's almost like a poster. Got some great posters from guys that would send them in, and it shows their sponsors. It shows previous sponsors, their skill or their goals and aspirations for the future as well as the season to come. Those kinds of things. Or you can create the same format and email it. So there's different formats you can do, and that would be kind of the next thing we can talk about. We can go into that if we've got time tonight, or if you want to wait till the next segment, we can certainly talk about formats and how to put together your specific proposal, what to include.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and touch on that, and then we can recover that next week and pick up from there and talk the next step. And so let's go ahead and go that direction.
Sure. Well, a lot of people start out. They get that first step. They email, "Are you guys accepting applications?" And I'd say, "Yeah, please email us a resume." And 10 minutes later, I'd get an email. My name's Chris so and so. I raced the B class. I got second place last year. I ride a Can-Am. I was sponsored by this person last year, and it's a very poorly written, illiterate paragraph that littered with typos, and it's an email saying what they did and nothing more. And so you want to approach applying for sponsorship kind of like applying for a job, and that you put together a proposal or a resume that is a reflection of you, because that may be the only interaction that particular sponsor will ever have with you. And you've got to show who you are, a professional appearance, so that their first impression of you is a good one. If it's an email littered with typos, asking for product or asking for free stuff, they're not going to expect much from you in terms of you marketing them, and they're also not going to expect that you'll probably put as much effort into marketing them as you did in that email, which wasn't very much. And so it amazed me, some of the emails that I got and saw from people that didn't put a lot of time into it. So as you go to format a resume, you want to be professional. You want to keep it clean. You want to proofread, have another set of eyes look over it, because if you're like me, I'm bad at spelling. And I can read something a million times, and spell checker doesn't always catch stuff. So that's important stuff as you put together a resume. Just the punctual grammar, all that kind of stuff that you want to keep in mind, because that's their first opinion of you or first impression of you, and you want it to be a good one. As far as stuff to include in a resume, I have seen like 8-page long proposals for an amateur racer that's just hoping to get a little discount on product. When you're a top pro and you've got a significant history and championship history and you're putting together a team and you want to submit a big proposal, that's one thing. But most people on the receiving end of companies that you apply for sponsorship with, they don't have a lot of time. Usually honestly, a lot of people in that role, that's something they happen to do part of the year. It's a task that gets lumped on them when they actually do something else, and so they don't have enough time for their normal job, let alone to be replying to hundreds of sponsorship requests. But so keeping it simple, keeping it brief, and highlighting the specific things that you want them to know about yourself and your goals and aspirations for the coming season is good. So 1 to 2 pages is what I always recommend to keep it simple, that it's not a full, single-spaced, 2 full pages of text, but you want to be able to give them a picture and keep it straightforward. So I always encourage people to put a little brief history about themselves, how you got into riding, when you started racing, a little bit about, how you've done, how you worked up through the ranks or through the classes, or, I'm average Joe, and this is my first year racing. I've been riding for 5 years and thought I'd give it a shot. My plan is to race this series in this class. I'm going to race, and so you give them your goals, whether that's the national level or the local level. You want to be sure and explain what your goals are for the season, because that tells the company where they can expect you to be representing them. A lot of companies, a lot of people assume that just because they raced at the national level means they're going to get product, when in reality there are people at the local level and kind of a grassroots level that are on actually get better deals and better sponsorship percentages, discounts and things than people at the national level, because they're targeting a different market. For example, we don't need 30 people running our product representing us at the national level. Why don't we have 10 there and then five people at different local series around the country? There might not be as big of a crowd of spectators. There might not be as many contestants there, but they're marketing to different people rather than a whole bunch of people at the same place.
Right.
And so Can-Am, as a manufacturer, does that. They've got a grassroots marketing program where they support guys around the country, the national level, any ATV, the TQRA series, and then some Midwestern series where they actually have guys on on pretty good deals with them, and other companies will do that the same way. So just because you race a certain series doesn't necessarily entitle you to a discount or something like that. And definitely want to stress in your resume your plan, what series you're racing, the coverage you're going to be able to provide them, so that they know where you're going to be representing them.
Okay. And with that, that kind of brings us to an end of what we want to talk about tonight. But with stopping here, Seth, what are some of the key things that we're going to talk about next week?
Basically, when you hear back from a sponsor, I'll touch a little more on just some of the stuff to include in your resume. But once a sponsor makes an offer, there are a lot of responses you can have. A lot of times, and a lot of the things I dealt with were people that felt like they deserved more than what they were offered. And there's a lot of things to keep in mind, and a lot of ways that even if you don't feel like the offer they made you is quite what you're worth, there are a lot of ways you can handle that and approach that. A lot of people make some poor choices with that in terms of how they respond to companies, and there are ways that you can kind of blacklist yourself, because believe it or not, the industry is pretty small and companies talk. So if somebody kind of, let's say this, careful word choice, but if they run their mouth to other people, I've had people come back to me and say, "Hey, did you decline this person? Because they were pretty upset, and this is what they said." And I go, "Wow, yeah, I did," and they definitely aren't getting a discount the next time it comes around. And so we'll touch on kind of the how to respond, how to negotiate, I guess you could say, if you want to respond and that kind of thing, you're not pleased with what they offer you. There's a lot of perspective that a lot of people just don't seem to have. Typically, the person making you an offer isn't the person that has the final say. You're not usually trading emails with the owner of the company that has the freedom to say, yes, you can have free product, and yes, you can have a 25% discount. My role, I was given this is what we're doing. These are the people that get free product. This is the group of people that get this discount, and this is the group of people that get this discount, and that's it. And so I could trade emails all day long, but if depending on which section you fit in, I couldn't do anything for you. And so we'll explore that a little bit more, how to do that, and then just some outside of the box thinking of ways to show your sponsor that you're going to represent them. Saying that you'll thank them from the podium and run their sticker on their bike is pretty much standard operating procedure. So you gotta go a little more in depth from that. If you want more product or a deeper discount from a sponsor, you kind of have to show them why you're above average, what you're going to do that's unique, that's going to wow them with how you're marketing and representing them to potential customers, and again, help them sell product.
Yep, and we'll give them ideas on that, touch on that, give them some at least an opportunity to get their juices flowing, so to speak, and get a little bit creative. And we'll talk about a lot of that, and I'm sure a lot more. Seth, I know that people may have questions and everything out there. I know they can email me at rodney@quadradio.com. Rodney@gnccracing.com or Rodney@atvmotocross.com. Any one of those email addresses will get to me. And Seth, if they want to email you a question that you want maybe a little time to think about, if they want to give you a little time to think about it, they can email you directly at?
It's Seth at SethFargher.com. SethFargher.com.
Okay.
So you can reach me there. I'm on Facebook. I've got a business page for kind of some of my media stuff. That's you can like that, which is cool, and I'll post stuff on there. You can get a hold of me that way as well, and ask questions there. So I love the topic. Love to try and help people out, and based on the response that little article I put together, I wasn't expecting to get as much traffic as I did, and so it's cool that it got a lot of traffic. And if people have questions, I would be happy to answer those, and we can address more next time.
All righty. Sounds real good, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We'll plan, I guess, for next Tuesday night again next week?
That works for me, yes.
That sounds good. We'll have a fresh, a new perspective in part 2, I guess you could say, of our sponsorship do's and don'ts with Seth Fargher here on Quad Radio. Again, SethFargher.com. That is Seth, S-E-T-H. Fargher is spelled Fargher.com, and you can go to Seth at SethFargher.com. Send him questions. You can send email questions to me as well. Rodney at Quad Radio, Rodney at ATV Motocross, Rodney at GNCC Racing. Any one of those email addresses will get you directly to me. And again, I just want to say thanks, Seth, and look forward to talking to you next week, man.
Absolutely. You too, Rodney.
All righty. That'll do it for this week. I'm Rodney Tomlin. That's Seth Fargher. This is Quad Radio.